Part 1, Emergence of the Unexpected. Prologue, The Academy's Challenge. The Interstellar Defense Academy on Proxima Prime hummed with anticipation. Cadets from 17 different galactic species crowded the massive circular amphitheater, their exotic physiologies creating a kaleidoscope of biological diversity. Professor Zendra, a luminescent crystalline being from the Andromeda cluster, adjusted her neural transmitters and surveyed the expectant crowd. Today, her telepathic communication resonated through the chamber. We evaluate the combat potential of our newest galactic member, humans. A collective murmur rippled through the assembled cadets. Humans were an enigma, a species that had burst onto the interstellar stage with remarkable speed and unpredictability. Most alien civilizations viewed them with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. The demonstration begins. Lieutenant Kai Rodriguez stepped onto the central platform. At 175 centimeters, he appeared almost diminutive compared to the towering Crexian warriors and the massive silicon-based Thargan cadets. His movements were controlled, almost casual, betraying no hint of the demonstration about to unfold. "Greetings," Rodriguez announced, his voice calm and clear. "Today, I'll demonstrate fundamental human combat adaptation techniques." A Vesperian cadet, a gaseous entity contained within a translucent environmental suit, sparked with obvious skepticism. Biological combat? In an era of quantum weaponry and neural disruptors. Rodriguez's smile was patient. Technology fails. Environments change. Adaptation is survival. Technological simulation. Professor Zendra activated 3 advanced combat drones. Each was calibrated to match the combat parameters of the most formidable known species in the galaxy. The drones were architectural marvels of adaptive combat technology, capable of instantaneous strategic recalculation and armed with multiple offensive and defensive protocols. "Initiate combat sequence," Rodriguez commanded. What followed defied every expectation. Rodriguez wasn't just fighting, he was interpreting the drone's movements like a complex language. Where other species might rely on brute strength or advanced technological countermeasures, he used physics, leverage, and an almost intuitive understanding of kinetic energy. The first drone lunged, a blur of metallic precision. Rodriguez didn't block. Instead, he redirected, using the drone's momentum against itself. A subtle twist, a precisely calculated step, and the drone crashed into its companion with devastating efficiency. The third drone attempted a multivector attack, its appendages moving faster than most biological neural systems could track. Rodriguez moved like liquid mercury, finding micro-vulnerabilities in its attack pattern. 12 seconds. 3 advanced combat drones. Completely neutralized. Psychological aftermath. The amphitheater fell into stunned silence. Neural monitors tracked the emotional responses of the alien cadets, a spectrum of shock, fear, and reluctant admiration. Professor Zendra's crystalline form pulsed with complex electromagnetic signals, the xenobiological equivalent of raised eyebrows. "Explain your methodology, Lieutenant Rodriguez." "Efficiency over power," Rodriguez responded. "Humans understand that survival isn't about being the strongest, but the most adaptable." The galactic implication. Unknown to the cadets, this demonstration was being recorded and would soon be analyzed by the Galactic Strategic Assessment Committee. Humanity had just revealed another layer of its complex potential, not through technological superiority, but through an almost philosophical approach to conflict resolution. As the cadets processed what they'd witnessed, one thing became clear: humans were far more than just another developing species. They were a variable in the galactic equation that no one had fully calculated. And this was just the beginning. Part 2, Technological Paradox. The Research Station's Dilemma. Neutron Star Research Station Omega-9 hung like a fragile crystal suspended in the violent embrace of stellar radiation. Its transparent quantum-shielded walls offered a breathtaking view of the churning plasma storms that surrounded the station's precarious orbit. Dr. Nolan Reyes stood before a holographic display, his fingers dancing across quantum interface projections. Unlike the typical xenoscientist, he carried an intensity that set him apart from his alien colleagues. The station's primary research team, a diverse collective of the galaxy's most brilliant minds, watched with a mixture of skepticism and growing intrigue. Impossible problem, human solution. The quantum entanglement disruption is creating a cascading system failure, announced Dr. Zalara, a multi-limbed Nexian researcher whose neural tendrils were already calculating potential solutions. Her species was renowned for computational precision, yet her expression betrayed mounting frustration. The problem seemed insurmountable. The station's primary quantum core was experiencing a critical phase destabilization that threatened to tear the entire research facility apart. Traditional xenotechnological solutions had failed repeatedly over the past 72 hours. Reyes remained unusually calm. "May I?" he asked, not waiting for full permission before accessing the primary systems. The other researchers exchanged skeptical glances. Humans were still considered technological novices by most galactic standards. Their rapid advancement was viewed with a combination of curiosity and condescension. Unconventional approach. Where other scientists would deploy complex algorithmic interventions, Reyes began doing something unexpected. He started breaking down the problem into its most fundamental components, approaching it not as a technological challenge, but as an adaptive systems puzzle. "You're not using standard quantum realignment protocols," Dr. Zalara observed, her neural tendrils flickering with confusion. Reyes smiled. "I'm treating it like a living system, not a mechanical one." His approach was almost biological in its strategy. Instead of forcing a direct correction, he was creating microchannels of quantum potential, allowing the system to find its own path to stability. It was less about controlling the system and more about understanding its inherent nature. The moment of truth. 47 minutes into his unconventional intervention, the quantum core began to stabilize. The violent quantum fluctuations that had threatened to tear the station apart gradually calmed, resolving into a harmonious energy pattern. The other researchers watched in stunned silence. Dr. Zalara's computational systems were running multiple verification protocols. "Impossible," she muttered, her neural tendrils rechecking every possible variable. But it was happening. A human researcher had solved a problem that had stumped the galaxy's most advanced scientific minds. Philosophical implications. "How did you know?" Dr. Zalara finally asked, her usual computational detachment replaced by genuine curiosity. Reyes's response was deceptively simple. "We don't just see problems. We see potential systems waiting to find balance." The implication was profound. Humans weren't just learning galactic technology, they were reimagining how technology could interact with complex systems. The larger context. Unbeknownst to the researchers, this moment was being logged in the Galactic Scientific Registry. Another data point in humanity's rapidly evolving narrative of technological and scientific potential. The neutron star continued its violent dance outside, a reminder of the raw, unpredictable nature of the universe. And in this moment, humanity had just demonstrated its unique capacity to find order within apparent chaos. Epilogue, shifting perspectives. As the research team began documenting the breakthrough, a subtle shift was occurring in the collective galactic consciousness. Humans were no longer just a new species to be categorized and contained. They were becoming a force of unexpected innovation. Dr. Reyes returned to his workstation, already contemplating the next challenge. To him, this wasn't about proving human superiority. It was about understanding, truly understanding, the intricate dance of systems, whether biological, technological, or something in between. Part 3, Diplomatic Crucible. The Galactic Council Chambers. The grand diplomatic atrium of the Galactic Council gleamed with 1,000 reflective surfaces, each representing the architectural essence of different civilizations. Holographic representations of hundreds of species flickered in and out of existence, creating a living mosaic of interstellar politics. Ambassador Elena Novak stood alone, a solitary human figure amidst a sea of alien diplomats. Her presence was both an invitation and a challenge, a living testament to humanity's unexpected complexity. The unresolvable conflict. The current session addressed the escalating tensions between the Krell Confederacy and the orbital syndicates of Proxima, a conflict that had already consumed 3 minor star systems and threatened to ignite a full-scale interstellar war. Traditional diplomatic approaches had failed spectacularly. Centuries of established negotiation protocols had resulted in nothing more than increasingly hostile standoffs. The Krell demand complete territorial sovereignty, announced Ambassador Vox Nr., a crystalline being whose every word seemed to fracture light itself. The orbital syndicates refused to acknowledge any territorial restrictions. The chamber buzzed with tension. Centuries of diplomatic tradition hung in delicate balance. An unexpected approach. Where other diplomatic representatives would launch into elaborate rhetorical defenses, Novak took a different path. "Tell me about your greatest challenges," she said quietly, addressing representatives from both sides. The challenge was so unexpected that it momentarily silenced the chamber. Deconstruction of conflict. Novak wasn't negotiating. She was listening. To the Krell Confederacy, she heard tales of cultural preservation, a deep-seated fear of losing their millennia-old traditions in an expanding, homogenizing galaxy. To the orbital syndicates, she understood the desperate need for resources and sustainable expansion. Her approach was revolutionary. Instead of focusing on territorial lines and legal frameworks, she was exploring the fundamental motivations driving the conflict. The breakthrough. "What if," Novak proposed, her voice calm and clear, "we view this not as a territorial dispute, but as a collaborative resource management challenge?" She began outlining a framework that would allow shared resource development, cultural preservation zones, and mutual economic benefits. It wasn't a compromise, it was a complete reimagining of the conflict. The Krell representatives' crystalline form pulsed with complex emotional resonances. The orbital syndicate's holographic delegation flickered with unexpected interest. Psychological transformation. What Novak understood, and what made her approach uniquely human, was the power of narrative transformation. Conflicts weren't just about resources or territory. They were about stories, fears, and unaddressed cultural traumas. Her diplomatic strategy wasn't about winning. It was about understanding. The unexpected resolution. 47 hours of intense dialogue followed. Not traditional negotiations, but a deep, almost anthropological exploration of collective needs and fears. And then, something unprecedented happened. The Krell and Orbital Syndicate representatives began collaborating. Not because they were forced, but because they had been heard, truly heard, for the first time. Galactic implications. The diplomatic registry would later note this as a pivotal moment. Humanity had introduced a fundamentally different approach to conflict resolution, one that prioritized understanding over victory. Ambassador Novak watched the emerging collaborative framework with a subtle smile. This wasn't about human superiority. It was about human potential. The galaxy was slowly learning that humanity brought something entirely new to the interstellar table, a capacity for radical empathy and systemic reimagination. Part 4, Survival Ingenuity. The Impossible Mission. Planet Xerxes 9 was a nightmare of geological instability. Toxic atmosphere, constant seismic activity, and temperatures that fluctuated between freezing and plasma-like heat made it one of the most hostile environments in the known galaxy. No species had ever successfully conducted a prolonged rescue operation on its surface. Commander Marcus Webb studied the holographic terrain map, his fingers tracing the impossible topography. The mission seemed suicidal: rescue a mixed-species research team trapped in a rapidly destabilizing research base, with a window of survival measured in hours. The rescue team. Webb's team was equally unconventional. 6 humans, each selected not for their individual skills, but for their ability to adapt and work as a fluid, organic unit. They weren't just a rescue team, they were a living, breathing problem-solving organism. Lieutenant Ramirez, the team's tactical specialist, broke down their challenges. Seismic activity is increasing. Atmospheric toxicity levels are off the charts. Our environmental suits will last approximately 3.7 hours. Where other species might have considered the mission impossible, Webb saw it as a complex puzzle waiting to be solved. Unconventional preparation. Instead of relying solely on advanced technology, Webb's team began preparing in a way that surprised their alien mission controllers. They weren't just planning. They were creating adaptive strategies. "We're not going in with a fixed plan," Webb explained to the mission coordination team. "We're going in with a living framework of potential responses." The descent. The landing was brutal. Xerxes 9's surface was a constantly shifting landscape of razor-sharp crystalline formations and magnetic anomalies that could disable technology in milliseconds. Where a traditional rescue team might have relied on sophisticated scanning equipment, Webb's team used a combination of advanced tech and raw human observational skills. They weren't just collecting data, they were reading the planet's language. Unexpected challenges. The research base was located in a region of constant geological transformation. Magnetic storms created zones of total technological failure. Atmospheric conditions could change from breathable to lethal in seconds. The trapped research team consisted of 5 different species, each with unique physiological requirements for survival. A conventional rescue would have been impossible. The adaptive approach. Webb's team didn't approach the rescue as a linear problem. They treated it as a dynamic, living challenge. Lieutenant Ramirez developed real-time environmental adaptation protocols. Instead of fighting the planet's hostile conditions, they learned to move with them. Their environmental suits became less like protective shells and more like responsive living membranes. The rescue. When they reached the research base, the situation was worse than initial reports suggested. The base was literally being consumed by the planet's volatile geology. Most rescue teams would have attempted a direct extraction. Webb's team did something different. They began by stabilizing the base's environmental systems, using a combination of advanced technology and improvised solutions. They weren't just rescuing the team, they were temporarily transforming the base into a survival pod. Miraculous extraction. 52 minutes into the mission, they accomplished what every previous attempt had failed to do. Not just rescuing the research team, but keeping every single member alive, despite their different physiological requirements. The alien researchers looked at their human rescuers with a mixture of disbelief and newfound respect. Galactic implications. The mission would be studied for decades. It wasn't just a successful rescue. It was a demonstration of a fundamentally different approach to survival. Humanity had shown that survival wasn't about overwhelming force or advanced technology. It was about adaptability, collective intelligence, and the capacity to see challenges as living, dynamic systems. Commander Webb watched as the rescued team was stabilized, his expression calm. Another data point in humanity's evolving narrative.